What if I told you that real superheroes existed? Not in comic books, not in movies, but in actual recorded history, witnessed by thousands of people, passed down for over 1,000 years, and confirmed in a book that has not changed a single letter since it was revealed? No capes, no secret identities, but powers so extraordinary that if you saw them happen today, you would call them impossible. And every single one of them came from the same source, not from strength, not from training, but from Allah himself. This isn't fiction. This is history. So let's talk about it. Start with a man who could speak to animals and command the wind. His name was Sulaiman A.S., the son of Dawood A.S., and he was given a kingdom unlike anything before or after him. The Quran tells us that the wind obeyed him, blowing gently wherever he directed it, carrying his throne across vast distances in a single morning what would normally take a month to travel. He commanded the jinn, unseen beings of smoke and fire, who worked for him building structures, diving into the sea for him, forging things no human hands could make. Molten copper flowed for him like a river, shaped at his command. But it's a smaller moment that shows who he really was. One day, marching with his army, Sulaiman A.S. passed by a valley of ants, and he heard something no human before him had ever understood. The voice of an ant, warning the others to get inside their homes before the massive army crushed them without even noticing. Sulaiman A.S. smiled, not because he was powerful enough to destroy them, but because he was humble enough to be grateful he hadn't. He thanked Allah for letting him hear a language no one else could hear. That's the part people forget about real power. It was never about controlling creation. It was about understanding it. Now picture a man standing in front of the most powerful ruler on earth, armed with nothing but a wooden stick. His name was Musa A.S., and the ruler was Pharaoh, a man who declared himself a god and enslaved an entire nation to prove it. Pharaoh's magicians, the best in the world, threw down their ropes and made them appear to move like snakes, and the crowd gasped. Then Musa A.S. threw his staff. It did not just move like a snake. It became one, a real, living serpent that swallowed every illusion the magicians had thrown, exposing in one motion that everything they had built their reputation on was fake. The magicians, the very men hired to defeat him, fell to their knees on the spot and believed, because they, better than anyone else in that arena, understood the difference between a trick and the truth. Later, cornered between Pharaoh's army and the sea, with nowhere left to run, Musa A.S. didn't panic. He struck the water with that same staff, and the sea split apart, standing like walls of water on either side while an entire nation walked through on dry ground. When Pharaoh's army tried to follow, the sea returned, and the man who had called himself a god drowned in the same waters that had just obeyed a shepherd holding a stick. Musa A.S. had one more sign, quieter but just as strange. When he placed his hand inside his cloak and drew it back out, it didn't come out pale from the dark. It came out glowing, radiant white, without any disease, without any injury. Just light, on command, proof that some things simply cannot be explained by the world we think we understand. Then there's a man who healed people with nothing but a sentence. Isa A.S., born to Maryam A.S. without a father, spoke his first words, not as a helpless infant, but as a fully articulate newborn, defending his mother's honor from accusations the moment they were made against her. That alone should stop you. A baby, hours old, speaking clearly to a crowd of adults. Years later, he would place his hands on the blind and they would see. He would touch those with leprosy, a disease so feared people avoided even looking at its victims, and it would vanish from their skin. And in the moments the Quran describes as the clearest proof of all, he stood before the dead. People already buried, already mourned, and by Allah's permission, they opened their eyes and stood up. Not because Isa A.S. had some power stored inside himself, but because he made it absolutely clear, every single time, that it was Allah who was doing this through him, not him doing it alone. Go back further, to a young man tied up and thrown into a massive bonfire, built specifically to punish him for refusing to worship idols made of stone. His name was Ibrahim A.S., and the fire built for him was so large. Historians say they needed a catapult just to launch him into the center of it. Everyone watching expected to see nothing left. Instead, Ibrahim A.S. walked out of the flames completely unharmed, not even the smell of smoke on his clothes, because Allah had commanded the fire itself, "Be cool and be safe for him." Fire is one of the most consistent forces in the universe. It burns. Every time. Except that one time for that one man, because the one who created fire had spoken to it directly. There's also the story of a man swallowed whole by a massive fish in the middle of the open sea. Yunus A.S. had left his people in frustration, boarded a ship, and was thrown overboard during a storm when the crew drew lots to lighten the vessel. In complete darkness, inside the belly of the fish, inside the darkness of the sea, inside the darkness of the night, he called out with words so powerful they're still recited by people in distress today, that there is no God but Allah, and he had wronged himself, asking for forgiveness. Allah commanded the fish to release him onto the shore, alive, when by any law of nature he should have died the moment he was swallowed. And then there's a moment that happened in front of the disbelievers of Makkah themselves, not in some distant desert, not passed down from ancient scrolls, but in front of living witnesses who wrote about it, argued about it, and tried to explain it away. The people of Makkah demanded a sign from Prophet Muhammad SAW to prove he was truly a messenger. He pointed toward the sky, and the moon split into two distinct halves, visibly separated before coming back together. It wasn't described by one lone witness in a quiet room. It was seen by an entire city looking up at the same sky, and it's referenced directly in the Quran itself, a challenge left open for anyone in history to disprove. Every one of these men would tell you the same thing if you could ask them. None of them would call themselves a superhero. They would tell you they were simply servants, chosen to carry a message, and that whatever power moved through their hands, their staffs, their voices, was never truly theirs. It belonged to the one who spoke the universe into existence in the first place, the one who could make fire cool, water stand like walls, the dead open their eyes, and the moon itself split in half over a single city on a single night. That's the difference between the heroes we invent in movies and the ones history actually recorded. Ours needed a costume to feel powerful. Theirs needed nothing but sincerity and a Lord who answers. Subscribe, like, and share the channel for more authentic stories.